January 13th monthly meeting. I'll be conducting the meeting in Chairman Doug Stewart's absence. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is election of officers. Partially due to Doug's absence, we're going to move that forward at least until next month. Open the floor for public comment. This opportunity is if you have something you'd like to address that's not already on the agenda. So are there any such things? Okay, we'll move on. Next item, approval of the minutes of the December 19th, 2025 meeting. Everybody had a chance to peruse those?
I think they're good. I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Approve. Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I just have a quick,
Oh, sorry.
they say December 9th? Was it the 9th or the 19th?
It's December 9th. I was a typo.
Oh, okay.
There's a typo.
I wasn't here, so I'm just,
No.
There's a typo for me on the agenda.
Okay.
Mine says 19th.
No, on the agenda, the 19th.
Oh, I see.
December 9th.
All right.
I had a typo on the agenda. It's my fault.
Okay. Initial saldo application. Saldo stands for Subdivision and Land Development Ordinance. Subdivision Plan 1205 Ward Avenue and 1201 Ward Avenue, Merrill Gardens. Applicants propose to subdivide the existing parcels of land at 1201 Ward Avenue to add the area of the property within the airport runway easement to the airport property at 1205 Ward Avenue. No construction is proposed with this application. Anybody like to address this?
Good evening. I'm just going to introduce myself as well as the individuals that are present. My name is Andy Laird. I'm with King Laird GC. I work for Brandywine Airport. To my far left is Jerry Ramantino. He's the president of the Brandywine Airport. And also Neil Kamens, who's with Chester Valley Engineers. Neil will be doing most of the presentation. I just wanted to just lay a little foundation for everyone. The airport, everybody's familiar with the airport, I assume, off the Ward Avenue. Currently works on a few different easements. There is an easement from Merrill Gardens, it's approximately 2.8 acres. And the airport has had this easement since Merrill Gardens' inception. And basically what the airport is looking to do is just a lot line shift to take over that easement and make it part of its property. The reasoning behind that is basically FAA funding. In 2024, there was $2.89 billion available from the FAA for small airports. Brandywine Airport is really, I say expanded, but it's a really large pilot center, within the area. I fly out of there personally. I grew up in Chester County. I used to go over there when it was the dirt field, and watched the building expand to what it is now. It is a very large part of the community. So the airport does capitalize from the funding. And in 2024, the FAA started looking more closely at airports and basically started to mandate that you must own the land. Easements aren't good enough because what happens if they go away, you don't own the land, or if there's some issue or some argument. So Merrill Gardens and Brandywine Airport entered into an agreement where Merrill Gardens says, you've maintained it, you've taken care of it, but it's been our tax liability, it's been our insurance liability, why don't you take it over? So with that in mind, we presented the lot line change. We did go to the zoning hearing board prior to coming here. We were granted relief, basically, we would be reducing Merrill Gardens' impervious portion in a very small amount. The zoning board was okay with that. Again, there's no shovels going in the ground in this area. There's no construction in this area. It's unchanged. So with that little bit of foundation, I'd like to turn it over to Neil Kamens, and we can review with you the plan and the actual lot line shift that's planned. And if you have any questions, myself, Neil, or Jerry are available to answer them. Thank you. Neil?
Andy Center, Neil Kamens with Chester Valley Engineers. And the variance that we saw pertain to the zoning hearing board, the way Andy explained, just to be clear, it's for the percentage of coverage. Because if you look at the plan, what we're doing is we're moving this lot line here, basically down here to the back of the land that Merrill Gardens uses. And so this land here, which does have some green space on it, right now counts for Merrill Gardens coverage. So their impervious coverage went up above the limit, their green space went down slightly below the limit of the zoning, and that's what we went to the zoning hearing board for. So really, all we're doing is taking this line, moving it to the back of the land that Merrill Gardens already maintains. The airport already maintains all this land, both the runway, the taxiway, and then the green space. So that's literally what the plan is. As I said, there's no construction. We move the lot line, it makes the Merrill Gardens line smaller. Though their lot smaller, makes the airport a lot bigger. We don't create a new lot, we just add it from one lot to the other, and that's all that happens. So in this one, you can see the property line right today is that line with the Z on it that says existing land to be extinguished. The proposed property line is going to be back here. There is a stormwater management system for Merrill Gardens that's going to stay on their property. So when we're finished, it does make things cleaner that the land that the airport already maintains will be on airport property. The land Merrill Gardens they maintain will be all their property. That's about it. We'd have gone faster, but Merrill Gardens has a local attorney plus their in-house attorney. So every time we put something on a plan, the local attorney looks at it, then she refers us to them. They look at it, and they say, we don't understand this number. Can you add this dimension? Did that 2 or 3 times. And that's what's taken our time to get here. But there really isn't anything to it. We're not proposing anything. We're not creating a new lot. No change in use. Anything else.
Normally, this is their initial presentation before you. The plan has been submitted to the Chester County managers for review. The township will review it, and it's clean. Will come back to you for a review. It's just if you have any questions for either the airport, the attorney, Jerry Airport. This is basically so they can continue to operate the airport.
Is there any possibility of future expansion?
I don't know. Jerry might be able to.
Expansion as to the airport itself?
Yes. Or the runway?
Well, there is plans, and again, we're working with the FAA on it. To basically widen the runway 5 feet on either side, because that's another stipulation of the FAA. Since we receive federal funding, their new guidelines are 60-foot wide runways. We're only 50. So they said, in order for you to keep receiving funding, you have to comply with the mandate to go to 60 feet wide.
Okay.
So again, you know, we're trying to do this on our own property. That's the strip to the north of us we purchased a couple of years ago from QVC for that simple reason. So we're expanding on our property and not on twin easement property. And then also, as you can see, the dirt marks, we had just put in new lighting that the FAA financed for us, or funded for us, and it is on our own property. So that is the whole key here for us to maintain and utilize our own property and not an easement agreement.
With
And
regard to the length, if anybody's familiar with the airport, if you're going down Airport Road, and obviously we can't go any further that way.
Right.
If you're going down 202, obviously we can't go any further that way. So the airport length is pretty much its maximum length, right?
Right.
And that was actually extended many years ago, so maybe 20 years ago, that was extended a little bit. And like Jerry said, the only thing that might change in the future or be before, if relief is needed, is just widening 5 feet on either side to meet FAA.
They've already submitted that permit to the township, I reviewed it, and they're currently working with the FAA on some tweaks to run the lighting plan before they come back to the township.
And if I'm not mistaken, FedEx and UPS both use this?
No, we're
No?
not, we're not large enough to receive those.
Oh, okay.
aircraft.
There's a lot of executive aircraft that come in and out.
Right.
All right.
My dad, who's 78, sent me a selfie of him at like Shyamalan. I wouldn't pick the guy out if you lined him up in front of me. How my dad knew who he was, I couldn't do.
Okay.
But there are a lot of smaller turboprop Pilatus aircraft that are meant for short fields, some turboprop twin engines that handle a lot of the executive travel from people down on the main line and Chester County, Westchester area itself.
Right, the air stamina and Mars uses our airport once a week because she gets a helicopter and flies out to her plants out in Elizabeth County and then flies back here because she lives locally. So we have a lot of we have a lot of non-scheduled commercial flights that come in too. But again, in small aircraft for drop-offs for like Vanguard, QVC, Johnson & Johnson. So a lot of business people, frequent and utilize our airport.
Yes, sir.
The new proposed lot line, that's just north of the Merrill Gardens rear parking lot.
It's a little bit further, it's through this green area, because if you look at the plan, there's a stormwater system in the grass right there.
Right.
Okay, so how did you determine exactly where that new lot line was going to be in that green space?
We put it outside the stormwater system so that the stormwater system would stay on the Merrill Gardens property.
Okay, so it's just outside the
Yes,
it's just north enough to be out to keep
Yeah, so
their.
you can see the basin right there. So
Right.
that's how we put it, we put the line
Right.
so that the basin would retain on their property.
Right.
So their stormwater for them is on their property.
Because Merrill Gardens actually wanted us to take more. And we said, we want you to retain your stormwater management on your property, because that way if you have to service it, you can service it from your property. We don't have to give you an easement to come on our property to service your stormwater management. And also, we basically maintain their basin for them. We cut the grass in it every week, so we basically convinced them, no, let's not go that far. Let's keep it on your property, because it made more sense.
Is there any discussion with Merrill Gardens about relocating the fence to the property line that they currently have?
No, there isn't. No, there's not. And the reason being, Brian, is because of, this is our hangar row right here, okay? From this hangar end to the center of the runway is 250 feet. And that's called the runway obstacle-free zone. So in other words, that zone has to stay obstacle-free. You can't even have lawn chairs with a table there, because that has to stay totally free from obstacles. So there will be no benefit for them to move their fence, because
They go inside that zone.
they can't be in that zone. Now, we'll still have an agreement with them. It'll kind of be an easement agreement, but it'll only be an agreement that they're not going to put sheds, lawn furniture, patios, anything like that in that area, because we can't have that.
Which is
So-
the same as it is today. Like right now, they still have to respect their clear zone.
Right, exactly. And they, yes, like Neil said, they have to respect, the obstacle-free area.
So the obstacle-free zone for your airport is part of Merrill Gardens property?
Currently, yes. Draw this line straight across. That's why their rear fence is perfectly in line with the hangars, because see, that's the obstacle-free area. So they can't go any further than that.
Just a little history. This used to be called Arbor Square. And when
Yes.
this was proposed, it was controversial. Like, I was a supervisor, he didn't really want that there because of the safety of the airport.
Correct.
Before that was there, did the airport own that land, or that was not owned by you?
So the airport used to be owned by Bill Wilson. We go back many, many years. So you have Wilson Drive, right? And then in the 80s, in the late 80s, Bill Wilson retired, so he was going to sell the airport to a developer. That was a potential, and the pilots got together and said, let's form an organization and we'll go live, right? So the pilots bought the property, and I believe Glenn Blair, developed this Merrill Gardens, Arbor Square. He's a pilot, right? He flies out of Brandywine, helicopters and aircraft. And he bought that property and he reserved that property as property for himself for a future building. So as long as the airport's been there, the airport has always utilized that space as part of its obstacle-free area.
Yeah.
And
But the airport never actually owned that space.
No, because when the airport sold, I think it was back in 1983, when the airport sold and the pilots bought it, they could only afford so much. So they bought basically the lion's share, the center part of it, and then which left these other parcels available. And then one of our pilots, Len Blair, he said, okay, I'll throw in and I'll buy that. And kind of the shareholders thought that at some point in time, he would probably just turn it back to the airport or say to the airport, hey, you guys want to buy this, and you could put another couple rows of hangars, or maybe he would put his hangars there. And he didn't, he went the opposite way, he sold it to Arbor Square.
truthfully, no one thought that there'd ever be an approval to build a community there.
Right.
That was the spec, that'll never get approved, one of those. And it is, I mean, but, it's a very nice facility, and the airport and Merrill Gardens have been working in tandem, since inception. And the biggest piece is we've got this area that's, an easement, it's an obstacle-free zone. You can't do anything in there. We maintain it. We mow your lawn, take care of the area. The FAA allowed us to use that as part of our, calculations for funding. And, there's nothing that can be done in that area. Quite honestly, they can't really put anything. They can't plant trees. They can't put a building. They can't expand. Right?
It's kind of like on the north side of the runway with QVC, because they have that hill there, that embankment, all the way along the runway. And I've explained to QVC, that 250 feet north from the center of our runway is our obstacle-free zone. You can't do anything there. So, and they understand it, but then up on top of that hill, so from the pictures from the center of the runway, a 7-to-1 slope going north, okay? When you picture that slope, you can't even build a 5-foot doghouse on the top of that hill because it's going to be in our transitional airspace. So technically, unless QVC spends a whole lot of money to dig that land down to the level of our runway, that is unusable land. They can't do anything with it. They can't even put a doghouse on there.
Dr. White, I guess the question is, did we answer the question?
So what you're proposing to do isn't going to adversely affect the safety or operations and won't affect the residents at Merrill Gardens at all?
Not at all.
There's going to be absolutely no change in operations, how aircraft arrive at the park, how aircraft taxi, and how aircraft are stored.
Okay.
Completely unaffected.
Yeah, we can't do anything in that area, just like Merrill Gardens or any of our neighbors can do anything in that area. So basically, everything's going to stay the same.
Thank you.
Any other comments? This doesn't require action today. you'll be coming back to us with a final.
Yes.
So-
So we'll come back here for one more time for
Yes.
clarification of the board.
So if there's none, why, thank you, and
Thank you.
see you again.
Absolutely.
So, thank you for your time, all of us.
Hopefully y'all can go tomorrow.
Let me get the next one ready for you guys.
All right.
When you cut the material, I gotta pick it up.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
I'll just read it to start. The next item on the agenda is a zoning hearing board application, 750 East Marshall Street, Unit 108. The township received a request for a hearing before the zoning hearing board from Nova Group Properties LLC for the property located at 750 East Marshall Street, Unit 108. As noted in their application, Nova Group Properties are seeking a special exception to permit student housing at this unit. 750 East Marshall Street, Unit 108 is located within the R4 residential zoning district. It does permit student housing by special exception. This application will be here before the Township's Planning Commission during their January 13th meeting. That's what we're doing now. And before the Board of Supervisors meeting January 20th. Okay.
So 750 East Marshall Street.
This is, entry is right across from the hospital.
So here's Goshen. Here's the hospital. It's part of this, it's this,
Is it Goshen Commons?
Yes.
close to the hospital. Yeah. Yep. Yes, I think it's Goshen Commons.
They're condominiums.
Yeah.
They are, according to the sign.
Yep. So based on the application, it sounds like somebody has bought a unit and they want to be able to rent it as a student housing. And it's permitted by special exception in the zoning district, so it's a permitted use. But it would go through, instead of a conditional use hearing, it goes through a special exception hearing in front of the zoning hearing board. It's the only difference. It's similar, but the zoning hearing board hears it versus the board of supervisors hears it. So it's like anything else, like a variance would come before you or a conditional use. It's, do you have any opinions on
So this just affects that one unit.
one? So if someone,
Any other units in there?
they have to go through the same process.
But we don't know that any of those have done.
Nobody's applied for it. So they've applied for it because to get a rental license, you get a rental license, but if you get a student housing rental license, you have to go through the special exception.
So if,
Which means they can rent to just, because a normal rental is not, the way it was defined in our ordinance, there's a definition for student housing versus non-student.
so if they are granted the zone, doesn't that pretty much guarantee anybody else in that complex that comes for the same thing would be granted otherwise?
Not necessarily.
But then you can challenge that as unfair treatment.
Depends on the conditions that the special, but not everybody who owns a condominium not far from campus is going to think the student would want to live that far.
I'm just thinking that complex that opens the door.
It
for a lot
potentially
more.
could, but the current zoning ordinance permits the use by special exception. This isn't like they're going for a variance, and it's not a permitted use, it's already a permitted use, it's just the process to give the special exception. That's the difference. So, it's like a conditional use, it's a use that's permitted with conditions, the special exception is very similar, it's a use permitted with conditions, but the conditions are imposed by the zoning hearing board, not by the board of supervisors.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that in doing that, grant one, okay, no one comes, now you have people in there who own a place that weren't doing it. You're gonna be
There might be
affected now
conditions, there
by.
might be conditions imposed or guide rails. I know there's guide rails based upon, I believe, our rental ordinance, for this, that there's provisions they have to meet. But to be considered a student housing, they have to go through the zoning process. So
So then,
There isn't a legal way we can, that I understand we can say no. We have to say yes with conditions.
So this is one unit that,
One unit.
and the owner of this unit wants to define that unit as just for student housing for the university?
No, for students. For students to rent from them.
Just any student?
Yes.
It could be,
so is it the same?
They've limited themselves to 3 occupants
What's the
in their
distinction
application.
between a rental and a student housing? Like, why do they need a student housing? They can't just go to rental.
Maybe student housing that can advertise within the university. I don't, just give me a second.
What can you do about that rental rental?
I think that's why we said that we couldn't rent it normally, so that's why they want to switch it to something.
They've had it on the market
For a month.
Yeah.
They couldn't rent it, so they want to switch it to student home.
Does it establish a connection with the university?
So student housing is defined, the definition of student housing I have up here. Give me a second. I'm trying to right there. Oh, I just jumped around.
I think it's just like anywhere else in the borough.
Right, so why do the student housing, not just a rental? So a building owned and managed by a private school, college, or university,
Or a private entity.
which operates,
Give me a second. Well, I'll bring it up here on my screen so I can read it better for you, because I can't read from across here. Student housing, a building owned and managed by a private school, college, or university, or by a private entity which owns and operates student housing for college, university students recognized and approved for such purposes by the college or university at which such students are enrolled, which contains dwelling rooms, apartments, or living rooms that provide sleeping and living conditions for their students enrolled at the private school, college, or university. Student housing shall not include the conversion or use of a single-family dwelling for the purpose of renting for space to individuals attending the school, college, or university. So I guess they want to register it with Westchester.
And this is a student home they're renting, not student housing. And if you look at the definition above that student home, it tells you what that is.
I thought they talked about,
Yeah, the letter.
it says, it's student home in the letter. It says right here in the application, it's student housing.
Yeah,
So
so it
that's
should say
student,
student home.
well, they're asking for student housing on the actual application.
According to the definition, it'll be a living arrangement for at least 2 students, up to a maximum of 4 students.
Student
Yes.
home.
Yeah.
I guess student home would make more sense.
Related by.
Well, yeah, but student housing is the use. Student
Yeah.
home is what it is. The use is
Yeah.
defined. So if you go to the R4 district.
student housing is included in student housing.
R4 district use regulations.
Well, can you have student home without student housing?
I think it's more.
Just rental.
You can have, see,
I
the
don't
student
know.
home is limited to.
So it is a student home. It's continued as student home is the use in R4. It's R47
And a rental distinction that has to be equipped by.
is a student home right here. So that's a student homes right there. That's the use they're requesting under permitted by special exception.
They just wrote it.
They wrote it wrong, yes, on the application. But that'll be what the zoning hearing board and their solicitor is saying.
So how is it different than a regular?
Because a regular rental,
Because it can't be by age, because you
Right.
could not be enrolled in school.
I
And
just
how
think-
is what is that,
I just
and how is
think
that enforced?
the student housing is in there because the student housing is registered with the university. That's the big thing with that one.
But she, in.
Student home talks about students,
applicants-
but really, if you wanted to just rent your condo to 4 people,
Yeah,
I don't
because
know where legally, but
the applicant already says she's had plenty of interest from students, so it doesn't seem like she needs the extra advertising with the university, if that's what it's going to
But
allow.
I don't know
her to.
why. I can't explain it,
Yeah.
other than it's in our current ordinance, that they would register as a student home.
That doesn't give the owner or the student any special privilege or advantage?
It might do something as far as tax purposes or insurance purposes for the owner,
Okay.
but I don't know for sure what that would be.
And can the student possibly get something if they have some type of stipend to be able to use that stipend for that? If it is
If it's a registered student home, they could use,
Yeah.
they could potentially use financial aid to pay for it.
But
But
I
it's
don't
not
think-
listed as a,
I don't get the sense that they've approached the university to do it under the student.
they
housing.
may not make, well, why, they may not approach the university until we approve the use.
Well, why should we approve the use until they know that they can get that?
Because the university may not accept it unless it's approved as a student house.
I know, but.
I mean, I understand your questions and I can't answer because it has zero to do, there's no work outside, there's nothing changing about it, it's just to register it as a student home.
I mean, these are interesting questions, but I'm not sure that it matters.
It doesn't matter in this form.
Right.
It
You
matters
said-
at the zoning hearing.
You said we're obligated to approve it?
No, you're not obligated to approve it.
Okay.
You're not obligated, the only thing you are here to do is similar to a variance, and you would do one of two things. You would recommend to the board to stay neutral, or you recommend
Oh,
the
that's right.
board to, no, it's not, to stay neutral to special exception, or you recommend to the board any conditions you think should be imposed to be recommended to the zoning hearing board to consider when they
They review it.
They review it.
Or you can also recommend that the board set our solicitor to actively oppose the application.
Yeah, but it's a special exception use, so there's nothing to, you can't oppose the use. It's not like it's a variance where you're opposing the variance. It's either, it's like a conditional use. It's a use with conditions. It's just the zoning hearing board is sitting as up front, so there's you guys up front as the board. The zoning hearing board's here. That's the only real major difference. There's differences in the legalities of it, but the main difference is who sits up front for the hearing to hear the case and then impose the conditions on the use. So it's either the conditional use, which you guys had several of them before you, the board of supervisors hears that case. The special exception is more about the use itself, and that whether you're like a student home is typically not something that's built new, it's typically something that is used inside of something. So that's where they're probably like a special exception versus conditional use. I can't explain why they did each, because this was in the ordinance back in 2000 and I can't read that far, so let me pull it back up here. This as a use went into the ordinance as a special exception in 2013. So I wasn't here back in 2013, so I can't explain why it went in the ordinance in 2013 as a use.
I
Okay,
think,
but with the ordinance rewrite that we're doing, is this something we changed?
Honestly, I don't know.
Because we talk a lot about student housing.
I don't know. I don't know if it was changed from a special exception. I don't know where, because we've changed some of the zoning districts. I haven't delved into that level of detail, to be honest with you, of the ordinance, because the initial presentation of the whole ordinance is being presented. You guys gave a copy of the email where it came out of that. So you have the whole draft ordinance to review. But it's irrelevant in the new ordinance because it's going to be, until that is adopted, it doesn't matter for this case.
What?
There are situations,
Legally, you cannot deny the use. This isn't like, hey, I want to build a Wawa there and it's not allowed, so I want you to change the ordinance, like the guys at the car wash want to change.
But then can we put the condition in there to have, that they have to have a formal agreement with the university?
That may be,
Why?
there are instances
In
in
the student housing.
We have we do have student homes in the township, where a single-family dwelling, where it's rented out to students, exclusively to students.
If they're changing it to student housing, it says they have to have an agreement.
No,
But this is a student home.
the student housing is a definition. The use says student home. It was misworded. They misworded it on their application.
So this-
I read the application.
So the zoning ordinance would apply to other situations besides, condominium in this case. There could be a single-family dwelling, which there are, which is exclusively rented out to
Yeah,
students.
so it's like, here's an example.
Going back to not understanding the difference between student home and rental, which is a plain one.
I don't know why I guess
Brian's point about the student who is looking to rent, maybe getting financial aid for housing. And if they can show
Then it's
the
registered as a
government
student
that,
home.
or whoever's providing that loan, that it's student, certified student housing, they get the money for it.
But there is certified housing in Westchester that's up for rent.
That doesn't matter. Maybe they don't want to live there, maybe they want to live away
Maybe
from the
this
university.
person- this
That's
person-
not, yeah.
The person who owns this, maybe
Point.
people who own this maybe are trying to do this as a business and saying, look, we might have more luck renting this to 4 students or 3 students than we would renting it to put it in the market, hoping a family, like a young family rents it, or a couple rents it, or 4 friends rent it. Because I don't know how many bedrooms, but like, example, just throw out, if you have a 6-bedroom house and you want to rent it, you can't rent it to more than 4 students.
See, this is an R4 residential zoned area. If it was R3, you wouldn't be allowed to do this. Because the neighbor can complain, I have all this village next door to me, and they're all a bunch of students. Well, you can't do that in R3, but here in an R4 district, you could.
And
That's why they have to register with the
Yeah, but
township.
then you're
as
taking
being
a
a student
development
home.
that's not used to that type of student situation, and putting them into that type of situation.
But they have a
It's just 1
homeowners
year.
association and other ways to
police it.
Brian, you said we can put conditions on this?
You could you are not putting conditions on it. You are recommending potential conditions to the board of supervisors to consider passing on to the zoning hearing board.
Yeah, like-
Well, I would recommend that this be, of course, okay, as long as there are certain conditions that would protect the existing residents and limit noise, limit any potential disruptions or problems that student housing can cause.
Yeah, like you already have.
That's a kind of conditions that we could recommend.
You could put a condition or that, like, there could be no more than 3 students.
Right, and
Well,
then when they're screened for rentals, if there's special screening processes to make sure that these kids aren't going to.
You can't do that. You can't do that. It's just not legal.
That's illegal.
Right,
And
you can't do that.
There's
The
no
only thing
parent,
you can legally do is you can, and they put it in their application that they would limit it to 3 students.
Okay.
You can't say you got a screen, you can't, that's all the
So we can't add some protections for the existing community to.
They have a homeowners association that's there to do that. And if there's an issue, they can go to their homeowners association and say, we need to redo the rules here to.
And also, if they violate, if there's issues, they can complain to the township has the rental license. They're licensed to rent, because the person themselves are renting it inside the community. So the community has their own rules, the township has their own rules as well for the licenses and the inspections. Student housing also requires, and I believe, to be inspected way more often by the township for rental inspections than a normal, you rent a house, that I don't know how often we inspect every apartment at golf course.
It's every 2 years, isn't it? Every 2 years for a rental inspection.
But I don't know,
Not a
about-
student.
but I don't think a student, maybe yearly,
Probably every year.
or every time you change
And I guess
tenants.
that's the biggest concern is, I mean, I have a child in Drexel, rent student housing, basically. And
Private-
it's
private- private?
slumlord,
Yeah.
and it's not in good shape. So the concern is how do you maintain and make sure that if this becomes that usage, that it doesn't fall in this rate because they're just trying to funnel as many students through as they can and minimize the cost. But if the rental thing is only every 2 years that they're looking at the building, is student home more often? Or is it no criteria?
Hang on.
This, I don't know, I drove through there, I hadn't seen it before, there's 8 or 10 buildings, and I'd say there's at least 100 units in there, so in perspective, this is one of
Yeah.
that many.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking more of just how to make sure.
You might already have a slumlord in
Yeah.
there. Many.
Yeah.
Sure, the HOA has rules.
But they're not directly going after students.
The exterior appears to be well kept.
yeah, because it's not only the HOA, it's also the township limits that are already in place for noise and
Noise,
sounds. Right.
Yeah, that's
It
not.
sounds like there's just another layer of, number one, it sounds like there's additional inspections at least down your way, it sounds like. And,
For
yeah,
student housing,
again,
for student homes?
well, that's what you were saying.
I'm looking
It might
to
be.
see if there's anything.
Yeah.
And realistically, that far away from the university, you're probably going to get graduate students or people, or upperclassmen or somebody
Right,
like
nursing
that.
students or
Right,
regular students.
with cars and.
Right.
I mean, I know it's needed because the university's having a hard time.
I believe me, there's enough issues, like, if you go into the borough, what used to be High Street, which used to be a very elegant street full of very well-built houses, is now like fraternity sorority row. And I think there's tables out for, drinking games.
Right, right.
Yeah,
But then assuming that each other would control all that stuff.
yeah, I don't think you'd be allowed to do that. I mean, as a parent, I'd rather have my child live there in an HOA community versus, believe me, I haven't had a child that went to Goshen too. It scared me when I had to go apartment, get approval with her.
So there's a whole section of one.
I did.
Is there any way to limit the percentage of the units to eventually become student housing? I don't think so. Right.
It's only permitted in the R4 district currently. It's the only district in the township permitted is the R4. No other district allows it.
And how many are
But
for
again,
What if
my
you-
understanding of the new ordinance, we got rid of it.
Well, I don't know what the ordinance would fall under.
It blends in.
I was going to say, you might have student nurses that
Yeah.
need to be close to the hospital. Right.
So your R4 on this map is
Let's worry about students.
this magenta color. So there's a little spot like right here. That's R4.
That's Cambridge Hall.
Very different.
Get right in there, now I can charge
Here,
$1,000
here,
for each.
here, and that's it.
3,000.
And up here.
It's not much.
There's not much, so that's the area, this dark green area is all that's permitted, so it's up here in the corner, in that condo community. This little strip right here, which is right along Goshen, this little area, there's an R4 here, there's an R4 back here, and then there's R4 over here where King Control is, and that's it. There's nowhere else that's permitted in the township. So it's very limited, the area is permitted. So
I'd recommend we be neutral.
I would recommend, if it was me, I'd recommend be neutral because let the zoning hearing board hear the case.
Sure.
Because they're going to provide all their evidence, and provide the case to the zoning hearing board, and that's what the zoning hearing board's there for the special exception. If this is something wonky, like they wanted to put a Ferris wheel in the middle of the parking lot, maybe you might want to talk about it. Like this is, honestly, I don't think you're going to be getting that over here because you're too far from where anybody can walk.
The reason I would say neutral is that I can't think of an exception that would really be much line.
A condition, yeah,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
because anybody that goes over there is going to have to drive themselves to school. They can't walk. There's not a shuttle bus out that far from the campus.
Uber it.
And it's also understood we can't do certain conditions that will not be
Yeah,
legal.
now the borough has imposed limits to the boundary of where they can have student housing, it's bounded by streets. But there's so far you can take it, and then you start violating fair housing act and all kinds of other stuff, and get discriminatory, you can't do that. So. that's my two cents.
Okay, are we ready to vote on a recommendation? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to remain neutral.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Remain neutral. Let's see. No more public left for comments, so we're ready to adjourn.
We got one more.
What?
Who are you going to talk to?
I'll wait till I shut the camera off.
All right. We're not adjourned. Or
You can
you
adjourn.
want it after adjourn? Okay.
Adjourn.
We are adjourned.
Yes, almost.
Are you adjourned?
Yes.
Okay.